Okay, this particular video is going to show you how you add data to a user that already exists within both your backend storage and your two-dimensional array. So in this particular example, what I'm doing is I'm adding a deposit for a particular student. So I need to first of all determine who that student is. Once I've determined who that student is, then I find the row that that student exists on. Then I know which columns contain the deposit values, and if I just take a look here, we'll see it's column 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So it's column 6, 7, and 8 contain the deposit values. So go back into my code and find. I should have remembered where the line was. If I can find it now. There we go. So line 494. So first thing I do is call the app title method, which again just loads a wee banner at the top, and the breadcrumbs then tell the user where they are in the program. I've created this boolean invalid user and set it equal to true. So that's basically a wee control variable that will allow me then to ask the user to re-enter the username because the username hasn't been recognized. This username row ID allows me to keep track of which row I found that user on. The deposit's then going to be the value of the deposits that I'm going to read in, and the current value valid user just again is another string variable. It allows me to to use as a sort of a welcome message then for the user as they're using the program. So here we have a do while, and I guess I should have encapsulated that in a try catch. Remember, all data entry, input or output, should be within a try catch. So I'm going to put that in a try catch. I'm just going to move. I'm going to move that. Now there we go. It's done it for me. And I'm just going to put a wee catch statement. And the catch is going to capture the issue and an exception statement. And then I'm just going to put in console.writeLine the following issue occurred. And then attach the X object and then to string the content, so that'll output the issue to string. And then obviously I want something not only tell them what the issue is, but to reload the add deposit method. Okay, so I'm just going to say press put a new line, escape character N, press any key to continue to reload the add deposit menu, and then console.readKey does that. So once I press a button it then will load the add deposit menu once again. So what this does is within the try catch then, let me see if I got that. Try, no, I need to put in another, I think that's it now. Yes, that's us now, so it's a try catch. I could probably, yeah, no, I think that's fine. It should be fine. So this is me then. I've read in the asked the user to enter the username. I've read it in, stored it as user, and read in the users again, just in case I've made any additional, I've added the student in, so I want to have the most up-to-date version of what's stored in backend storage. So I read in all the users again, and then what I do is I iterate through each row in that student two-dimensional array. And remember, dot get length array, dot get length 0 gets a number of rows. So that will iterate through each row in the two-dimensional array. And then as it's iterating through each row, it will go to each row as determined by I. Remember, and these are the two dimensions of a two-dimensional array. That's the rows and that's the columns. So this will iterate through each row, and in location 0 of each row, check if that's equal to user, what the user's, what the person's entered in. If it's true, then it's not an invalid user. So set invalid user to false. Then set the current valid user. In other words, grab their username at that same location that this here bit has been true for. So get their username and set it to current valid user, and then also find out what row it's on. So set the username row ID equal to I, and then that allows me then to use that later on. So assuming everything goes okay here, I go outside the catch, and because invalid user is now set to false, it allows me to exit this loop. In other words, I'm no longer asking for the username. And then the next one is saying you're about to add deposits for. It has the username, current valid user. Remember, I retrieved that then from the two-dimensional array, and then I've asked them to enter the deposit amount. And all I'm doing here in this little for loop is I know there's three deposit amounts, 1, 2, and 3. So I'm reading in 3 times the deposit amount as determined by this counter j. So, and this counter j will then basically concatenate the value of j, and that's why I'm using j is equal to 1 as opposed to 0, so that the statement would read enter deposit 1, 2, and 3. And then I've used this try parse idea then just to make sure that again, another error handling mechanism. This is something you have to talk about in your controlled assessment, how you've built in error handling. And again, this do while is your error handling mechanism. Ask them for data entry. If the data entry doesn't match what you need it to match, then keep on asking them. So this try parse then will try and convert what they entered to a number. If it is a number, then this equates to true, and it outputs a number to this deposit. And then all it does is it will, that's the actual amount then, the deposit amount, it will assign that to the username row ID. In other words, here we found out which row the username exists on. We find that row in the two-dimensional array, and then we use j plus 5. Remember, j is 1 currently, and so it will go to j plus 5, which is 6. So it will go to column 6 for the row that the user is on, and then assign the deposit as a string, because remember it's a two-dimensional string array. So remember, a two-dimensional array, you've got the rows and you have the columns. So this is adding 5 to the value of j. So whenever j is 1, it'll go to column 6. Whenever j is 2, it'll go to column 7. Whenever j is 3, it'll go to column 8. And if you just remember, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So that's the 3 columns in each row that you need to update. So, and that's what that's doing. So in the two-dimensional array, it's going to the row that for that particular user, and then starting off in column 6, add the deposit that they have entered, and then that will increment the counter. That will change to 2, and it will repeat the process for columns 7 and 8. And then remember, you're updating the working memory. You're updating this two-dimensional array in working memory, and you're writing that to file. You're saving it to backend storage then. So the next time we load it, you have an up-to-date record of the deposits they've paid. And then a wee confirmation message. Again, you're making your application user friendly. You're telling them that the ski times have successfully updated. Press any key to return. Console.read key does that, and then you're loading the finance menu. And that is it.